and get moving on this. So I'm going to try to leave the lights on. I know that sometimes you turn them off for when there's a PowerPoint up. Since we're going to be moving through them pretty rapidly, I'm going to try to keep the lights on. I try to make the font as really big so that those of us in the back can see it. So guys, please disregard this first sentence. It says on a piece of printer paper. I kind of called an audible late on this that we started using these pieces of papers. So guys, on the very back side, where it's blank, you're going to complete this part, guys. So write a few sentences describing your prior knowledge and what you know about global climate change. So when you hear the word global climate change or global warming, what are the first things that come to your mind? Okay, so a few sentences describing what you already know, and maybe those things that you just immediately recall when you hear someone talk about climate change, guys. So just a few sentences. I'm budgeting about 5 minutes for this. So 5 minutes from now, let's just call it 1:28, guys. Okay, 1:28 will be our deadline. Does anybody have any questions about what we're doing? Awesome, folks. 1:28 is our current deadline. Remember, we're writing a few sentences describing your prior knowledge on global climate change. Go ahead and get started, guys. Again, folks, one thing that I kind of would like to edit is we aren't writing on a piece of printer paper, we're writing on the back side of your guys' articles. All right, folks, about 4 more minutes left. Folks, I'm just making a quick round to see how we're doing as far as pacing. I am noticing that I'm seeing a lot of pencils that have dropped. Our current deadline is 7:28, guys. We'll continue. Let's plan on around 7:27. We'll wrap this up. I'm going to cut you guys about a minute short, considering that I do see quite a few pencils beginning to drop. Gator or Chromebooks just for a brief moment. We will need them back, so please don't turn them off. The reason why we're getting them, of course, is just so that way I know I have your guys' undivided attention. Awesome. Sweet. Hayden, you mind hearing that? Thank you. Alrighty, folks. So I do want to at least hear a few responses. So I'm going to look for at least, let's just say, 2 responses. What's your prior knowledge of global climate change? What is something that you think of when you hear someone start talking about it? So I'm going to start with Hayden. Hayden, what are your thoughts?
Well, so it's like gases that we produce, so it's mostly our fault that it's happening.
Okay, excellent. So Hayden, correct me if I'm wrong or I'm using your words incorrectly, but it sounds like you're kind of hinting towards maybe it's human caused. Awesome. Okay, excellent. So we're kind of going in that direction of human caused. You mentioned the gases that we produce. Awesome. Awesome. Let's go to Amaya. Amaya, what are your thoughts on global climate change?
When I think about it, I usually think of like the ice melting and everything.
Excellent. So you're kind of alluding to some of those positive feedback loops, some of those things that are artifacts or evidence for it. Absolutely. That's awesome. I know I promised 2, but I'm getting such good responses, I'm going to go for 3. Zach, what do you think of?
Descending bias.
Awesome. So your mind kind of goes towards that evidence or the negative effects. Am I using your words correctly? Awesome. Awesome. Guys, does anybody have anything that they would like to share in addition? Awesome. Alrighty, guys. So what we're going to do is we're going to move on now. So here's a quick little bit of prep work. However, I already kind of handled it prior to class. So I will read it, but then of course it's already been done for you guys. So the key takeaways that we needed, each table should have been given either a pro or a con sheet, guys. Make sure that we have it. That's what we should have been writing on. Again, I got a little ahead of you guys and I already passed them out. Here's what we're going to do, guys. So we have about 10 minutes is what I've budgeted for. You're going to read your sheet individually, okay? So you should have been given a sheet that's either pro or con. You're going to read that sheet, and then you're going to circle the most significant sentence in the article. So you're going to take your pencil, you're going to circle the sentence that you found most significant in the entire page, okay? You're going to place a star next to an important statistic, okay? So there's 2 things so far that you're doing. You're going to, again, circle the most significant sentence, and you're going to put a star next to what you find as the most significant statistic. Finally, at the very bottom, you know what, on most of these sheets, it's going to be the top is where you're going to have the most space. You're going to write a sentence takeaway. Okay, so again, we're altering this from the bottom of your paper to the top because as I look at these papers, I'm noticing that the top has more space. Okay, so there's 3 things that we're doing. You're circling, placing a star, and you're writing a sentence takeaway, guys. Hold up the number of fingers to show me how many things you guys are doing, guys. 3, 2, 1, let me see them. Awesome. We should have 3 things that we're doing. We're going to circle, star, and write a sentence at the very top. So guys, I budgeted about 10 minutes for this. Does anybody have any questions? Awesome. All right, guys, 10 minutes from now, this is at 7:41. Again, we're reading, circling, putting a star, and writing a sentence. Okay, 7:41 is our current deadline. Go ahead and get started, guys. Weston, I just wanted to get you caught up real quick. Let me go ahead and one thing I should have really mentioned. You should have 3 pros or cons. We're reading all 3 right now. It's not just one. Reading all 3. What's up, Corbin? Sorry, oh, that's fine. You guys have been assigned con. So you guys are only reading the con articles. What's up, Zach? That's a great question. So, Zach, what I mean by that is after you've read this, how could you summarize what you've read in one sentence? The one sentence takeaway is just telling me what did you take away from the reading? Does that make sense? So just summarize it in one sentence. Oh, yeah, you weren't here yesterday. Let me go ahead and let's find your seat on the seating chart. So, right now I have you at E, which is with Michael. So you can sit wherever you like. That's a good seat. So that way you're facing the board. Let me go ahead and get you caught up. So right now what we're doing is we're reading this page, and what we're going to do is we're going to circle the most significant sentence of it. You're going to put a star next to an important statistic, and then you're going to give me a one-sentence takeaway at the very top. Does that make sense, Wyatt? Awesome. So folks, currently we have about 6 more minutes left. I'm going to continue kind of cycling just to see where we're at as far as pacing. I'm seeing lots of people have started wrapping up. We may end up cutting our deadline a little short. I'll keep monitoring how fast those pencils are dropping. Yes, Natalie? Yes. See here. Simon, for the debate, I think so that way you aren't by yourself, I'll put you with another con group. When I put you with Corbin's group, you don't have to move right now. When it comes time for the debate, I'll have you team up with them. Does that make sense? Cool. Awesome, folks. I am starting to see lots of pencils dropping, which tells me that it's about time that we shorten our deadline by a little bit, folks. That'll give us about 3 more minutes left, guys. I'm only going to take about a minute away, guys. We'll go till 7:40, folks. 7:40 is our new deadline. I'm seeing lots of pencils dropping. dropped our pencils. So what we're gonna do, folks, is we're gonna actually move on real quick. I know that I'm cutting you guys about another minute short. But again, the reason why we're moving on is that I see most of us have completed this part. So again, we've gone through step one, folks. We should have a circle around the most significant sentence to us. We should have a star next to the most important statistic, as well as a sentence takeaway written at the very top, folks. All right, guys, step two. Budgeting about 5 minutes for step two, folks. What we're going to do is this is where we're actually going to talk with our table mates, okay? So, really the starting point is share with your table mates your sentence takeaway. Okay, that might be a very good starting point, or you can even share the most significant sentence or the most important statistic to you. Okay, where I take someone from the pro side, actually I think the pro side's over here. So I take someone from the pro side and someone from the con side and get opposing takeaways or thoughts. And hopefully we can kind of break this down in debate style. But just to get things started, I want to go with just some brief descriptions of what you guys talked about. Okay, so again, what you guys are doing right now is you're talking with your team, you're sharing, and then, most importantly, you're going to figure out who's going to speak, you're going to figure out what they're going to say. Okay? Budgeted about 5 minutes for this. Again, we've gone about a minute or two shorter each time. So in preparation for that, guys, let's just plan on about 4 minutes. If we need to extend, we can absolutely do that, guys. Right now, we'll go till 7:45. Does anybody have any questions about what we're doing? Okay? Again, we're discussing with our teammates. We're going to figure out who's going to share and what they're going to say. Those are the two things we're doing. Awesome, guys. Go on ahead and get started again. 7:45 is our current deadline. You're working with teammates right now. So what you're trying to do is, my starting point for this is like, we're starting this conversation to share with Kylie your takeaway, or your sentence takeaway. And she'll share hers. Once you guys have kind of an understanding of what you guys think about what you've read, then you can figure out who's going to speak, and it sounds like you've already decided it's going to be Mason. Then you're going to figure out what you're going to say. Okay? What was that? So that's what you guys are talking about. You guys got to figure out, how are you going to summarize what you think, what you have read, and what you're really taking away from it? Okay, so that's kind of your task, is to work together and figure out what you would say to everyone to kind of explain what you've read. Does that make sense? Awesome. Awesome. All right, so Weston, so what we're going to do is I'm going to let you work with Aiden and Vanessa. Go. Aiden and Vanessa. So what we'll probably have to do is maybe do some Google Translate work, but I'm not going to have to touch yours. That might be a little tough. Okay? Right now, I would just share with Aiden and Vanessa what you thought. You might use Google Translate, and then they'll reciprocate. Aiden and Vanessa, does that make sense? So you might have to tell Weston your Google Translate, or however, what your key sentence statement is. Does that make sense? Awesome, guys. Awesome. Sorry, what's up? So my recommendation is, the starting point should be you share with Brian what you think or what your key sentence takeaway was. Brian will do the same. And what you're trying to do is ultimately you're trying to figure out, when I call in your group, what the That's what you're really trying to determine with Zach, is when I call on you guys, what are you going to say? Does that make sense? Cool. Alrighty guys, I feel like we need to extend just by a little bit, guys, just by about a minute or so. Based on what I'm seeing as I make these rounds, guys, it looks like most of us are just putting the final touches on our discussion as to what we're gonna say when it comes time for me to call on you guys, when we get this debate going. Alrighty, folks. It is 7:46. I said we were going to extend by about a minute, so right now is our current deadline. I do want to hear from a few groups. Let's go ahead and make sure that we're on pace. We're going to go on to step 3, make sure we aren't missing anything, guys. So I do want to go over some ground rules for how we're going to handle this. Essentially, I've split the room into half. I've done pros over here, I think up to Michael's group, then cons starting at Amaya's group on back and around, okay? So, here are the ground rules, or the norms for this activity, guys. So participants only speak when they're called on, okay? And raising your hand signals that you would like to speak, guys. So when we start, I have a sneaking suspicion that's gonna be a lot of me calling on you guys. My intention, or what I'm really hoping, is that once we get going, you might want to rebuttal. So for example, if I call in a pro group, they say something, but the con groups, after you've read your article, you may have something that you would like to rebuttal with. In that scenario, that other group would like to raise their hand, and we'll go back and forth, okay? That's how I envision this going. If that's not the case, then we'll just call on a few groups and get opposing viewpoints. Again, in an ideal scenario, we'll have an exchange, okay? We'll have one group on one side give their key takeaway or what they thought of the article, then we will have the other group hopefully rebuttal. If not, we can always just call opposing sides and get a general consensus of what each group thought, okay? So again, those are our norms, or our basic rules for this debate. Now it's debate time, guys. So I'm gonna moderate, and I'm gonna call on specific groups, and I'm gonna try my best to alternate, okay? So between the pro and the con sides, as far as hearing their arguments. Okay, so again, right now we should have the person who's going to speak, and we should also have what they're going to say already ironed out. Okay, so in preparation, guys, I'm going to ask that we go ahead and gator those Chromebooks, so that way I know I have everybody's attention. Awesome. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to start with, and again, when I call on just a group, I'm going to call on a random person at each group. That doesn't mean that person has to be the one to speak, because we've already determined who's going to speak. So I'm going to call on Zach's group to start out with. Zach's group. So I already talked to you guys. Sounds like you guys already kind of know who's going to speak. And I believe that was Brian, right? Awesome. So Brian, what did you take away from that article? What would you like to say about the article you read? You guys were on pro side.
We said that we learned that the 3 main things that cause climate change are humans.
I apologize, Brian. I couldn't hear you.
We learned that the 3 main things that cause climate change are humans. What they do, like they release gases into the atmosphere, and that's all. That's all.
Okay, absolutely. No, that's excellent, Brian. So the first group that went, thank you, Brian, for going out on that limb and being brave enough to share. Sounds like one of the key takeaways is that climate change is human caused, and a lot of it has to do with the release of gases based on human activity. Brian, did I get all of the points that you made?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, good. Now I'm going to go to Hayden's group. Hayden's group. what was, since you guys are a con group, right?
Yep.
Okay. What was your guys' takeaway or argument that you'd like to make?
Well, all three of the cons that we have are saying that it's natural for climate change to happen.
Okay. Excellent.
We're not really causing it, like it's natural to happen like a few thousand years ago.
Excellent. So we have a very opposing kind of argument here. We have that it's natural, and then we also have an argument that it's human caused. Excellent, Hayden. Did I use your words effectively? Awesome. All right. Does anybody want to rebuttal to that? So we have an argument that it's naturally occurring, and we also have an argument that it's human caused. If not, Wyatt.
For our types of fuels that we can make more prototypes of machines, and we can also use that as different types of biofuel.
Excellent. So, Wyatt, from what I'm hearing, it almost sounds like you're talking about the solutions. Is that what I'm hearing correctly? Awesome. So Wyatt's alluding to that the human cause aspect of it could be solved by new technology, it sounds like, new fuel types, and new technology when it comes to transportation and, of course, energy production. That was excellent, Wyatt. Awesome. Now I'm going to go to Mia's group. What did you guys think, or what did you take away from that?
Just that we release a lot of gases into the air that really shouldn't be from like everything we use mostly.
Absolutely. So now it almost sounded like we were talking about the excess that we're producing. Is that right?
Yeah.
Awesome. So we have, through our energy production, our manufacturing processes, we have high emissions. Is that kind of what I'm hearing? Awesome. All right. I'm going to call on one last group, unless somebody would like to rebuttal. Awesome. You guys are cons. I'm going to go to Mason's group. What did you guys think?
I just said that global warming causes CO2 put that.
Okay. Now, are you taking the stance of that's a natural process, or are you taking the stance of that would be human caused?
I'm saying that it's natural.
Okay, excellent. So we have an example of where there is CO2 being released into the atmosphere through natural processes. For example, guys, if a volcano erupts, that is a huge producer of greenhouse gases. Awesome. Good job, Mason. Awesome, guys. Does anybody have anything they'd like to rebuttal with or share on that? I'm going to go one last group, and I don't think I've called on Elizabeth's group yet. I know they're a pro group, and we just went con. So Elizabeth's group. I'll link you guys to the last group to go. What are your guys' takeaway, or what are your guys' thoughts?
I got that most climate change is caused by humans, and it's happening a lot faster than we think. So.
Absolutely. So there's definitely a sense of urgency. Is that what you're kind of saying, Carter?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yes, so there's definitely a sense of urgency. It's happening at a very accelerated rate. Awesome. Alrighty, guys. I think we did an awesome job. Would anybody like to rebuttal or anything that they're dying to share about this? All right. Well, that signals to me that we're good on the debate. Now we're going to go to your opinion. Okay. So far I've given you guys all of the information you have been able to use. I told you guys whether you were going to be a pro or a con in the argument. This is your opportunity to tell your side of the story. Okay. So in your opinion, so based on what you've heard, based on what you've read, which side presented the best argument? So, and it doesn't have to be a specific group. It has to be, I'm hoping that you'll target whether you would align with a pro or con argument in this case, based on what you think. Again, I've been telling you guys what information to use. In this case, I would like to give you guys the opportunity to tell your side of the story. So which side presented the best argument, why, and which one do you agree with most? Looking for about 4 sentences, guys. You're doing this on the back side of your paper. Again, at the end of the class period, what I'm collecting is this piece of paper, okay? So about 4 sentences, and I really want you guys to use this as an opportunity to tell your side of the story. So far, I've told you guys what to, for lack of better words, think, okay? In this case, I would like you guys to tell me what you think. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, raise up the number of fingers for how many sentences you guys are gonna write. 3, 2, 1, let me see them. Awesome. About 4 sentences, guys. I have budgeted about 5 minutes. I have a feeling that might be a little too short of time frame. We're gonna start with 5, I'll extend it if I need to. That puts us at 8 o'clock, folks. 8 o'clock is our current deadline. Go on ahead and get started. Again, on the back side, give me your opinion, what you think. I've given you guys the opportunity to tell me what you think. Go ahead and get started. Our current deadline is 8 o'clock. Awesome. Thank you, Jordan. You might have not been here. Hello, Jordan. Awesome. Put that sweet pass on my desk. Okay, so they already adjusted the attendance, right? Awesome. So let's take a look here. Jordan, you're over here at F. Staff list of you right in front of you, so you're over with Carter. Awesome. So Jordan, just to get you caught up, we only have a little bit more time. And what I'd really like to get from you today is I'd like you to read this article. And then on the back, I'd like you to pick up where we are now. Okay? So read the article, and then on the back side, I would like you to tell me your opinion. So do you agree with the article or do you disagree? And tell me why. So I'm asking for about 4 sentences. So I'd like you to just pick up where we all are right now. Does that make sense? Cool. make a quick round to see how we're doing as far as pacing. So far what I'm seeing is a lot of people are done. So I anticipate that we're gonna stick with our current deadline, which is 8 o'clock. We are there, guys. I'm gonna grab my mouse. We're gonna move on to the final portion. Alrighty, guys. So this is our way of making sure that we actually learned what we needed to learn. And we will revisit the objective at the very end of class to make sure that we have actually made that connection. We've actually learned what we were supposed to learn. However, this is kind of that artifact that you guys are going to turn into me on this paper as well. So guys, we're going to try to draw a connection here, budgeting about 10 minutes for this part. So the question is, how are prehistoric organisms, fossil fuels, and global climate change connected? You might notice that we really only talked about global climate change, but what I'm trying to do is connect it to what we've been talking about for the last week or two. Of course, we're talking about prehistoric organisms and fossil fuels, guys. So, to help visualize this, we're going to complete a thought connection triangle. Okay, so what we're going to do is, on your paper, you're going to draw this for me. Okay? We have a little triangle. I'm hoping that we can all see this triangle where we have prehistoric organisms, fossil fuels, and climate change, guys. You are filling in the yellow boxes. So what we want to do is we want to figure out how prehistoric organisms are connected to fossil fuel, climate change, and then back to prehistoric organisms. So let me give you guys an example. So I'm gonna attempt to do the first yellow box, guys. We're gonna go prehistoric organisms to fossil fuels. How do you guys think we go from a prehistoric organism to fossil fuels? Hey,
Burn that.
what was that?
Burn that.
Absolutely. So we almost went above and beyond, and I appreciate that, Hayden. How do you go from a tree, a prehistoric tree, to, let's just say, coal or oil? How do you go from those two things? Why?
By smelting them down and turning them into some sort of biofuel.
Absolutely. So you're kind of thinking along the right lines. Absolutely. So I heard a few important things. Okay. So the key takeaway is that those prehistoric organisms, those trees, those swamps, all of those organisms, that biomatter, got buried over time, got compressed and heated, creating or forming some sort of fossil fuel, whether that be coal, oil, natural gas. Or later we can almost synthetically make biofuels like you were talking about, Wyatt. So, how do we connect those two things? Prehistoric organisms are what give rise to fossil fuels, guys. So again, usually it's some sort of biomatter. That's usually trees, swamps, things like that that existed millions of years ago that became buried, compressed, and heated over time, and created some sort of fossil fuel. So guys, I'm gonna challenge you guys to do the rest of these yellow boxes. On the back side of the paper, you should have that little thought triangle. You should have those connections filled in, those yellow boxes. Okay. So right now, I believe 10 minutes might be a little excessive. Since I've already gone through an example and we kind of already got the first one done, I feel like 10 minutes might be a little excessive. We'll go till 8:10, which gives you guys 7 minutes. If we need to shorten or extend, we will, guys. Go ahead and get started. Great job. What's up, Zach? Absolutely. Folks, what I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to turn off the lights just for a brief moment because I recognize from the back it might be a little tough to see all of those components of the triangle. I will turn off the lights just for a brief moment, guys, so that way I can make sure that everybody can see what they're filling in on that triangle. Awesome, guys. About 4 more minutes left. About 4 more minutes. I am noticing that we're taking our time on this, which is excellent. I anticipate that we'll continue to use the remaining 4 minutes. Alrighty, folks, I'm going to go ahead and turn on the lights. As I make my way around, I am noticing that most of us are done. I am going to challenge you guys just for a moment. I'm grabbing my mouse. I'm going to challenge you guys just for a moment to go on ahead and share it with your teammates. And then I would like to debrief by getting a few examples of what you guys have in these yellow boxes. So guys, I'm going to give you guys about a minute or two to go on ahead and share with the teammates what you have in those boxes. Make sure that you guys are on the same page and figure out who's going to share if I call on you. Okay, if I call on your group, once again, if I was going to the Ryan and Zach example, if I called on their group, I just said, Zach, what did you guys think? One of those folks is going to share what they thought. So again, I'm going to give you guys about a minute or so. Share with the teammates, make sure the teammates are on the same page. Make sure you've determined who's going to share and what they're going to say. Okay? Go on ahead and get started, guys. Currently, we're going to go till about 8:11. So make sure you know what you're saying, who's going to say it. Again, what I'm looking to do is fill in each of these boxes. I'm going to collect that in probably a few minutes, right before the end of class. Alrighty, folks, it is 8:11. That is the time when we were our current deadline to go over these answers, guys. So we've already done the first box. I don't feel a need to necessarily go over the first box together because that was our example, guys. Prehistoric organisms, fossil fuels, guys. Prehistoric organisms, we're talking some sort of biomass, whether that be trees, plants, swamps usually are like those turn into eventually coal in most cases. So we know that prehistoric organisms provide the means to develop fossil fuels essentially. So guys, we're gonna go for the connection between fossil fuels and climate change. Let's see here. I'm gonna call on Carter's group. Carter's group, what do you guys think the connection is between fossil fuels and climate change?
People burning fossil fuels, like producing gases that cause climate change.
Absolutely, that's excellent, Carter. The burning of fossil fuels creates greenhouse gases that have been linked to cause climate change. Absolutely, Carter, that's perfect. All right, now we're going to try to make a connection between prehistoric organisms and climate change, folks. Let's see here. I'm going to go Hayden's group. Hayden's group, what are your thoughts? How do you connect climate change and prehistoric organisms?
Well, I don't connect them directly, I don't try to.
I'm fine with that.
Because, so yeah, I said that prehistoric organism is fossil, which is a plant. It gets burned, becomes coal, coal goes to a coal plant, smoke to a coal plant, goes to that.
Excellent. So Hayden's group kind of went all the way around to connect these, and I'm fine with that. That's very creative, and I think it does a great job of illustrating that all of these things are very connected. So Hayden's group illustrated or told me that those prehistoric organisms are what allow fossil fuels to be formed. Those fossil fuels, when they're burned, cause a release of greenhouse gases, which then are linked to causing global climate change. So we have connected prehistoric organisms to climate change. We just went all the way around, which is perfectly fine with me. Great job, guys. Okay, so we have 2 more minutes left, guys. I want to make sure we've learned what we needed to learn. So at the beginning of the class, guys, we went over the objective. So we wanted to learn about climate change and the connection with the climate change and fossil fuels. So we will know that we've accomplished it when you guys can develop an argument for or against climate change based on evidence. The evidence that you guys were given was the pro and con articles. You guys developed an argument. We went back and forth. And then also, you guys can complete a connection triangle. You guys have done that, and that will be collected. Okay? Speaking of collection, guys, make sure that your names are on your papers. I have a yellow folder up here next to Mason. Send a representative to turn it in, guys. When you're done, go back to your seats. When that bell rings, you guys are dismissed.